This video is about fixing bad guitar habits that you might not even be aware of. I certainly should have corrected these earlier, so you might benefit from my mistakes. These are things you can do right away and see an instant change. There's an expanded version of this in the Masterclass. Just click below and take the 14-day free trial. Just go to the tips module in Gear, Tones, and Tips. Here's one amazing technique that really is second nature for all pro guitar players. If I take my index finger here on the 5th string, the C note right here, what I don't even think about is that the pad of the index finger is laying down, but the tip of the index finger is pressing lightly against the low E string and keeping it quiet. Once you start to practice these muting techniques, it quickly becomes second nature. Any note that I'm not playing is unconsciously, automatically being muted by whatever finger is laying across it or laying next to it. Might be the index finger. It's just, in this situation, it's just laying across the B string and the E string. And then it's also pressed up against the low E here. So that doesn't sound. Muting with the right hand is a big deal also, and it can be musical in the sense that if you're playing a small rhythm part, muting and opening creates pronunciation and expression. So muting with both hands is probably the most important habit you can develop as an electric guitar player. Here's a quick tip. Chain your overdrive pedals, but leave the drive knobs way down for light gain. So here's the amp. Pedal 1. Number 2. And number 3. If you have your tone set just right on the amp, it turns out, and it took me way too long to learn this, the best tones come from having your guitar way up, almost dangerously loud, right? And picking very softly, but having control of your soft picking so that it's even. Because what happens when you pick soft with a sound that's loud, you get a bloom and a blossom and the notes get fatter. It's a total paradox. Now, there are times when you want that hard spank for emphasis or to create a sound that's more gained up because you have this gain range in your amp set just right. But most of the time, when you're playing, let's say, a single line, if you have the guitar up loud, you want to be able to pick softly and evenly. And then all you have to do is emphasize certain notes and you sound like a pro. By hitting certain notes soft and other ones loud, you create emphasis and punctuation in your playing. Quick tip, when you're playing an arpeggio, sometimes it's nice to put a lot of delay on it because that delay disappears in the track and it just makes the guitar dimensional. Let me show you. Here it is dry, no delay. Okay, so now, press this button, get some delay. All of that really disappears in the track, but it makes the guitar expand. Check it out. I recommend getting a sound on your amp that is touch sensitive and dynamic, a baseline sound that's not too distorted. There's always a place on any decent amp where it's near the edge of breakup, it begins to compress, and if you hit hard, it sounds dirty. If you hit soft, it sounds cleaner. There's an art to this. It's touch and go. You just have to find it and try and keep it there. And then if you want to channel switch on your amp, that's another way to get more gain, or step on a pedal, that's fine. But the baseline sound to me needs to be touch sensitive and clean when you pick softly and dirty when you pick hard. And then, of course, you can use all the levels in between for expression. And punctuation. So if you set a sound that's too distorted or too clean, you don't get any of this. It has to be the place in between. Some amps won't do it, but a lot of amps will. And I've even set up a modeler that will do it. So I'm going to switch to my Fender Tone Master Pro. It could be anything. I've got a setup where it's doing basically the same thing. And this is a Marshall Plexi that's set kind of clean, a JTM 45 model. So that's hitting hard, here's hitting soft. And then here are the different levels. So even with modelers now, you can set it up to where it does this particular thing. All I have on it is some reverb in my DAW. There is no effect, no compression, just an amp into a speaker, into a microphone, and then I switched to the modeler, the Tone Master Pro, but it could be any modeler. Here's a quick tip. Challenge yourself by playing over a track that requires you to change keys once. This particular track requires me to play D minor for 3 bars and D major for 1 bar, and the cycle repeats. And it's enough of a challenge to last me a lifetime. Another thing that's not talked about enough, I think, is discouragement, being discouraged as a guitar player, the mental health aspect of this. I have several things I use to diminish this. One of the first things I want to talk about is no one ever masters the guitar. No one ever totally masters a musical instrument. Through your life, you always have to practice. You're always bumping up against the top of your ability and then settling back a little lower than that when you perform. So that's another thing to realize. If you practice like a beginner and push your ability and make mistakes, and then when you go perform, you just take it down a notch and you stay within your limits, that equation can keep going higher, where you keep pushing your limits as you practice, and then as you perform, you stay within your limits. The other thing I try and do is I laugh. I smile. When I make a mistake, I smile. And that simple trick keeps me happy, keeps the audience entertained, and it takes all the pressure off. So just remember that you never master this instrument, and it's physical and it's mental. And if you keep coming back to it on a regular basis, you will improve. But sometimes you'll just stay as good as you can. Life gets in the way. Maybe you take a trip, whatever, or for any mysterious reason, you feel rusty, you feel like you haven't been warmed up enough. That's okay. You'll constantly be going peaks and valleys when you play an instrument. And the idea is to enjoy all of it. The other thing to remember is that guitar means different things to different people. It means different things to different great guitar players. Guitar means something very different to David Gilmour than to Nuno Bettencourt, than to Matteo Mancuso. You see what I'm saying? My goal when I play is to sit in front of an audience and have the musicians like what I play. More than that, have the non-musicians like what I play. More than have the men like what I play, have the women like what I play. I want everybody to enjoy what I'm trying to say on the guitar. And the great thing about guitar, there's so much love in the tone of the instrument and in playing slow and just telling your story and expressing yourself. It can be anything you want it to be, whether you're David Gilmour or Joe Walsh or Keith Richards or Matteo Mancuso or Nuno Bettencourt. It's so different to every different guitar player. Make up your definition of the guitar and make it right for you. Quick tip, your compressor pedal makes a great clean boost if you just turn the level up and the compression off. These days, I practice or try and practice good ergonomics. The simplest definition for ergonomics is efficiency and safety. But what I'm talking about is economy also. Economy is an essential part of ergonomics. Let's start with that. So if you're playing something and you lift your fingers up too high, that's not economy and it's not good ergonomics. You want to do it like this. And even smaller if you can. Let's move on from there. You don't want to be nervous when you strum. I try and keep a consistent hand moving, a motor going every time I strum, every time I pick. You want to make your picking even. You don't want to hold any tension anywhere. Think about your shoulders. Do a body scan when you play and make sure your shoulders are relaxed, your arm is relaxed, your wrist is relaxed. You also don't want to press down too hard on any note. Now that speaks to having your guitar set up in a way that's easy to play. If your strings are too heavy and your action's too high, there may be something you like about that, but it may require you to actually tense up your hands and play too high, and it may be limiting you. I like guitars to be easy to play with no issues so that I can use the minimum amount of strength it takes to do something and then do it right. And that will increase your stamina. In my particular case, I pay attention to safety in a couple of ways. One of the safe things I do is when I'm bending strings a lot, my hands get fatigued. I take a pause. If the music's going, that pause can be a natural part of your solo style. Or if I'm practicing, I take a pause. Never go so far past the point of pain that you injure yourself. Pay attention to your wrist. What you want to do when you're practicing, when you're playing, is pay attention to the pain. And in the music, you can give yourself a break and let your hand rest in a lot of situations. Now, if you're in an ensemble, it's much easier. If you're a solo classical guitar player, that's a whole different level. And you really can overdo it if you're holding down the whole fort. But most of us are playing over a track or in a band, and we're part of the music. So that gives you a chance to breathe. And any rest, any 2-second or 5-second rest for your left hand or your right hand will take that pain away and it'll keep you safe. So let's go back to economy with both hands. When you practice something with your right hand, sometimes it's better to do small segments rather than large ones. If you want to capture a big piece, like a big scale or something, sometimes it's better to break it up. And that's good for both the right hand and the left hand. And when you fret something, just use the exact amount of pressure you need and even pressure anytime you're doing multiple notes in a chord or anything. Make sure your bar chord is not pressing down too hard here, not here, not here. And that keeps you light on your feet. Because one of the main things with guitar is changing from chord to chord, you want to shrink the gaps. There's always space between chords, but if you have this light touch and you're not pressing down too hard, you can't remove the gaps, but you can shrink them so that they're imperceptible. that's a really good habit. But you only get that by making sure that your touch is light over here. You're not straining in any part, or you're not pressing down too hard. It's like baggage or a ball and chain to everything you're doing. And I find if you create these habits, you can actually play longer and you can repeat something over and over. And repetition is the key for me to getting something right. The way that I don't get discouraged and I enjoy repetition is by playing over a track. If you have a piece of music going over and over and over and it's looped, or a jam track, and you repeat something 100 times, it's still fun the 99th time and the 100th time. It's also really fun if you just vary it a little bit on purpose. So repetition and variation are really, really great keys to practicing. Now, let's talk about the guitar just over the shoulder. You'll notice that when I sit in this chair, I have a strap still. This is one of the least talked about things about electric guitar. The guitar is actually too low when you put it on your leg. Now, you can get a stand for your leg and bring it way up. That helps. But for me, I always prefer having a strap because I get it up to where my back can stay straight and I can play. And it still looks pretty cool. You don't want it to be up here. You could play great if it was up here, but you want it to be up high enough to where you can keep your back straight and get all the notes. We spend so much time in front of screens, our computers, our laptops, our iPads, and our phones, that we have a tendency to go like this. And guitar, you can spend a lifetime just closing down like this. And over time, it becomes destructive. So you wanna, if you can, if you're interested, you wanna have your back straight. And I just use a strap even when I'm sitting down. That helps me greatly. And I never get any issues with my back or my neck. And I stay relaxed. And I can play better and I can play longer. Hey guys, a lot of the time YouTube will bring you my videos even though you're not subscribed. If you get the chance, click this subscribe button and ring the bell.